Here we go.
We begin with last night's opening night of the NBA. My biggest takeaways. The Celtics are even better than I thought. Just about everybody is sleeping on the Lakers except me. And Bronny James is such a great kid, raised right by his parents, so humble, so unspoiled, that it's impossible to root against him, even though in Summer League, in the preseason, especially the preseason, he obviously did not earn the 3 minutes he got to play last night for the Los Angeles Lakers. But what an historic 3 minutes it was, playing alongside his dad in LeBron's 22nd year in the NBA. It was trillions to one that Bronny would be even remotely good enough and LeBron's body would hold up long enough for him to be playing at this level at age 39 in season 22. But last night, for 3 minutes, their paths actually crossed while wearing the same Lakers purple and gold in a real live NBA regular season game, opening night versus the T-Wolves on TNT. They checked in together only in Hollywood. And even though at first it felt a little like take your kid to work day, Bronny handled himself pretty well under the world is watching circumstances. So LeBron soon set up his son for a three-point shot that Bronny shot with conviction. It was just a little short, but man, I wouldn't have blamed him if he'd airballed that shot given the pressure, but it definitely hit the front of the rim. Then a moment later, Bronny really impressed me by flashing down the lane, very nearly tipping in a missed shot. Way to go, kid. Nobody can stop you from hustling. And that was about it. So on the bench just before they went in together, LeBron told his son to just play free. And Bronny didn't look too nervous, got through it unscathed. Congrats to father and son, but especially to father. To me, this clearly meant even more to LeBron, who called Bronny after the game his lifeline. His lifeline. I love that. That's how much that kid means to that man. So now the hard part starts for Bronny. I've got to remind you, in 6 preseason games, Bronny shot a scary bad 29.7% from the floor. That was 11 of 37 in 6 preseason games. He shot 8.3% from 3. That was 1 for 12 in 6 preseason games. So now that history has been achieved, what does J.J. Redick do with Bronny? Will LeBron bleeping James stand for his namesake son playing for the South Bay Lakers in the G League? Or will LeBron now push for Bronny to play, 10 minutes a night for the Lakers every game so he can travel with his dad? He can't travel with his dad if he doesn't even play in the games. This team, trust me, is deep. It's sneaky deep. And this water could get very deep for a rookie coach named J.J. Redick. But for now, let's just focus on last night. What an opening night it was for the L.A. Lakers. J.J. Redick, speaking of, I know it's just one game, but to me, he looked comfortable being in charge. He commanded with authentic authority, not with some forced phoniness. He didn't come off to me as if he were acting like the new head coach. He was the head coach. I got to tell you, I was impressed. My BS detector detected nothing. And from start to finish, Anthony Davis played like the best player in the world. 36 and 16, 3 blocks, 1 on Gobert. He just dominated Gobert and Julius Randle and Ant-Man and the Wolves. And speaking of that other guy on the team, this LeBron guy, this 39-year-old looking like he's 25, he still has the explosiveness and obviously the skill of a top 10 player. So if you have 2 top 10 players and maybe even a top 1 or 2 or 3 player. And all the players who were hurt last year get and stay healthy. I'm talking about Vincent, Vanderbilt, Christian Wood, Cam Reddish, and Rui and D'Lo and Austin Reeves keep taking turns having big nights. And Dalton Knecht, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it again. Dalton Knecht has star potential. Star potential. Dalton Knecht will be a difference maker coming off the bench for these Lakers as a fire starter. Right now, the gap between rookie Knecht and rookie Bronny is from here to Knoxville, Tennessee, where, of course, Knecht played in college. Yet, the odds makers have the Lakers tied with the Cavs and the Magic for the 11th best odds to win it all. That's just wrong. As I predicted on this show, I have the Lakers losing in the conference finals in 7 games to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Then I have the Thunder losing in 5 games in the NBA Finals to the steamrolling juggernaut known as the Celtics. I said during the Olympics, repeatedly during the Olympics, this will not be fair. Jaylen Brown, of all MVPs, got left off the Olympic team, while Jason Tatum often got left on the bench for entire Olympic games. Well, you know what happened last night. Predictably, the two of them said Olympic this on ring night, banner night in Boston, when most champs get distracted, lay an egg. The Celtics just devastated and dominated the poor Knicks, who, as I said on this show, will lose some of their edge, some of their toughness with Kitty Cat as their new most talented and ultimately most disappointing player. The Knicks are just a pretty good team that will battle it out for third in the East behind the Sixers and, of course, the Celtics. So now you're telling me that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have new chips on their shoulders? This is just not fair. The team that led the NBA in three-point shooting last year, wait a second. JT on opening night has improved his three-point shot. He makes 8 of 11 threes, and JB made 5 of 9 threes, and the Celtics starters made 26 of 41 threes. The best got better. That's 63.4% just for the starters. That is not fair. You know, now that I think about it, just for the record, it wouldn't shock me if the Celtics and the Lakers make it to the NBA Finals. But I will stick with Celtics OKC. So, I had a colonoscopy last Friday. That was my 4th colonoscopy. If you haven't had one, I sure hope you eventually do, because I do believe in this ultimate screening for colon cancer. Yet, I will admit to you, prepping for this one was much rougher than the first 3. Maybe I just erased the suffering from my memory, knowing that you need a colonoscopy every, 7 or so years. But man, I didn't remember not being able to eat any solid food the entire day before the colonoscopy. I could have only Jell-O. Jell-O, the most worthless and unsatisfying food on this planet. Just plain red or green Jell-O. I mean, I don't hate Jell-O. I didn't mind the occasional taste of Jell-O when I was a kid, but to eat 3 entire meals through a day of Jell-O? Please, God, no more Jell-O. So the object, of course, is to completely clean out your system, to absolutely empty out your bowels so the doctor can go in from behind with his scope and go up inside and see exactly what's going on in your colon without any literal shitty camouflage. I've never used that word that way. I don't often use that word anyway, but I'm talking about literal shitty camouflage for the doctor. Must be eliminated. So my wife, Ernestine, said, you can't run Thursday morning. I ran. Ernestine said, you cannot play golf Thursday. I played 18 holes of golf after I ran. And in between my run and my golf, I ate Jell-O. I ate 5 of those little tubs of Jell-O before I left for the golf course. Ernestine said, eat another one. I said, I can't. I might throw up. And she shrugged, and I knew what she was thinking. Well, it's got to come out one end or the other end. Pick your poison. So on my last 3 holes of golf, I completely fell apart. I got lightheaded, felt like I was going to pass out. And when I got home, I forced down 5 more servings of Jell-O. Then Ernestine asked if I wanted some clear chicken broth. What? The idea of clear chicken broth on top of all that red and yellow Jell-O, it just made me want to puke. No, I said, I don't want any chicken broth. Then it was time. That magic time. It happens twice, but it was time to take my first nuclear laxative, prescription only, from the doctor. So it comes in a fairly large bottle, about this size, that you have to drink all the way to the bottom. That required 8 big swigs. Drano has to taste better than this chalky stuff. I said to Ernestine, I think I'm going to throw up. She shrugged, one end to the other, whichever. But man, does this stuff ever work? Not to get too graphic, but within 10 minutes, I was sitting on the toilet. So, forgive me, but at first, some pretty solid poop flies out of you. Then, all of a sudden, it bizarrely goes to straight water. Niagara Falls, right out of your butt. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't make you nauseous. It just feels weird. You are power peeing right out of your hiney. What? And now the water torture starts because you must drink 5 full glasses of water, presumably to keep you from dehydrating. Then, how about some more Jell-O? No thanks. I was starving, ravenous starving, but no more bleeping Jell-O. No more red Jell-O, no more green Jell-O, no more yellow Jell-O, or I'm going to start dry heaving. Then it's about 3 hours later. I'm out of my mind, sweating. Here you go again with 1 more full bottle of turbo laxative. 8 almost unswallowable gulps of just straight Drano all the way to the bottom. And this time, within 5 minutes, Niagara Falls comes right out of your butt. Straight water, 100 miles an hour, power splashing right into your toilet bowl. And now, say the instructions, 5 more glasses of water. I made it through 3, and I told Ernestine, I just can't drink anymore. I feel like I'm getting drunk on water. And Ernestine said, well, this is the last liquid you can put in your body. I said, what? You mean the last I can drink before I wake up? She said, no, this is the last you can drink before the colonoscopy. I said, forget the colonoscopy. I'll just need an autopsy. She said, it was just like this last time. I said, no, it wasn't. This is way more strict and severe. She said, you're just like having a child. And I said, time out. And I ran for the bathroom. No exaggeration. That night, Thursday going into Friday, I twice woke up and had to go Niagara Falls. So the only smart thing I did was I scheduled my colonoscopy for 6 a.m. so I didn't have to wake up and suffer any longer. I had to be there by 5:15, so I just rolled out of bed and I staggered for the car. If it had been Halloween, I could have gone as a skeleton. At the surgery center, you take off everything but your socks and you put on a gown, open, of course, to the back. You also have to put on this weird plastic covering over your hair, so as they wheel you out of your little bay toward the procedure, you look like you're being taken to the psycho ward. The operating room is a little intimidating with all these medical contraptions looming all over you and around you. But everybody's trying to reassure you it's going to be okay. The doctor, the nurse, the assistant, and the anesthesiologist, who I think said to me, "Time for a little nap." And I was gone. I was out. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. So it always amazes me that in just seconds, like in 3 seconds, something can travel through your IV into your system and just send you right into Never Never Land. For my first colonoscopy, I just had what they call twilight anesthesia. So I could hear them talking. I could feel them moving me around. But for the last 3, I was completely out for, I don't know, what's it take, half an hour? And when I came to, all I could think of was, Ernestine's going to pick me up and we're going to go eat and eat and eat some more. I always care what I eat, but for once, I did not care how much. So the doctor came by and said everything looked fine in my colon. And I'm thinking, yeah, if there had been anything precancerous in my colon, I Niagara Falls'd it right down the toilet the night before. Now that it's over, I am very glad I had my colonoscopy, not only for the screening, but the cleaning. Every once in a while, you just need to clean yourself completely out. I mean, completely out. So in the end, they wheelchaired me to the parking lot, and Ernestine then took me to our favorite place in Beverly Hills, Nosh, little deli, and we did celebrate. I did not order Jell-O. Let me take a quick swig of the Breakfast of Champions, Nectar of the Gods. Okay. I must admit, I was very surprised when Troy Aikman on Dallas radio blasted the Cowboy receivers and by name blasted CeeDee Lamb for running terrible routes. What? Troy Aikman said, "I think CeeDee needs to improve his route running." Whoa. Wow. So Mike McCarthy took issue with Troy's comments. McCarthy said he did not agree with Troy's word selection. But this also surprised me. Jerry Jones defended Troy, saying Troy's comments were fair and that no one knows more football than Troy Aikman. I definitely agree with that. I was there when Troy played quarterback for the Cowboys, wrote 3 books about those teams. I can tell you for a fact, Troy demanded that every receiver, especially Michael Irvin, ran perfectly precise routes so they were exactly where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. And obviously, Troy, as a Hall of Fame quarterback, is going to be quick to defend a fellow quarterback, especially a Cowboys quarterback, because nobody knows better than Troy that playing quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys is simply the hardest position to play in all of sports, given the pressure, expectation, America's team. So, what we have here is Troy going public with harsh criticism of the Cowboys, of a specific Cowboy, the player I trust the most on the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, which is, can I say, out of character for Troy? Look, I watch very closely, not coach's tape, just television. I do think Brandon Cooks is a very good route runner, but he's obviously been hurt. Jalen Tolbert, not a big fan, but he ran a very good route all the way down the goal line on that play that won the game in Pittsburgh. But here's the point about CeeDee. I'm his biggest fan, defender, supporter. CeeDee is more like Travis Kelce. CeeDee freelances on the fly, tries to beat the defense as he sees it developing, and he depends on Dak to follow him, to react to him, because he believes he's better and smarter than Dak, and he is. But the problem, of course, is that CeeDee and Dak don't have the love and respect for each other that Mahomes and Kelce do. The problem is CeeDee was forced to hold out for all of camp, so I'm pretty sure he and Dak put in very little, if any, off-season time, zero camp time, improving their chemistry and their wavelength and their anticipation, especially after the incident that transpired between the two of them on the first series in that Green Bay playoff debacle. So I get this. I'm sure that to Troy's trained quarterback's eye, it's one of the great eyes ever, to his trained quarterback's eye, it looks like CeeDee is running haphazard, random routes, and I'm sure that drives Troy nuts, offends his sensibilities, yet here we also have the owner disagreeing with the coach, who I hope is on the hot seat, should be on the hot seat. We have Jerry siding with Troy. This all made me wonder if Troy first shared his feelings about terrible route running with Jerry, and Jerry encouraged Troy to go public with his criticism, hoping it might light a fire under CeeDee that McCarthy is incapable of lighting. I don't know. That's just a theory. I also thought what Micah Parsons said was a very valid response to Troy's criticism. Micah said that Troy should have just come to the Cowboys facility and told CeeDee and the receivers to their faces to constructively criticize them, while maybe showing them tape where they could be better in their route running, because, as Micah said, they would listen to Troy Aikman without taking offense. Whatever transpired behind closed doors, I sure hope it works Sunday night. I need to see CeeDee play with focused rage. I posted a video last Sunday guaranteeing the Dallas Cowboys, my Cowboys, would get revenge for last year's 42-10 humiliation at San Francisco on a Sunday night. You know and I know the Niners are injured. The Niners are reeling. Cowboys opened as 5.5-point underdogs, but I really like them to win this football game. Now is the time. If they can't beat the 49ers now, let's get to your questions from YouTube. This is at Siobhan Reynolds, who asks, who do you want coaching the Cowboys? Belichick, Vrabel, or Ben Johnson? Okay, let's start with Bill Belichick. I do not want Bill Belichick coaching my Cowboys, because Bill Belichick was mostly a product of Tom Brady, and Brady obviously ain't walking through that door in Dallas. Though I remind you, in 2020, I pounded the table for Jerry to go get Brady. when Tom Brady hit the open market, and all Tom did was go to 7-9 Tampa Bay and win the Super Bowl. I first guessed it. And I'm going to say it again. Wake up, people. Bill Belichick as a head coach was 64-85 without Tom Brady. In Belichick's last 3 years without Brady in New England, Belichick went 34-51 and made it to one playoff game, which his team lost at Buffalo 47-17 when Buffalo played the perfect game. Buffalo scored every single time it had the ball on the quote-unquote GOAT coach, known for his defense, or so we were led to believe. I'm going to say it one more time. Tom Brady would have 8 Super Bowl rings if it weren't for Belichick, whose vaunted defense allowed the Eagles' backup quarterback, Nick Foles, to hang 41 on the Patriots. 41 points. While Brady was throwing for an all-time playoff record, not just a Super Bowl, an all-time playoff record, 505 yards, and putting up 33 on a top 5 Eagles defense. Bill Belichick is overrated. He just is. He's overrated. He got exposed. And I remind you, Belichick was so insecure, he cheated. He actually cheated. The GOAT coach cheated and got caught. See Spygate. The great Don Shula dismissed him as Belicheat. Shula actually said that. Belicheat. Then the other day on Brady's podcast, Bill Belichick stooped to take a shot at his successor, Gerard Mayo. Took a shot at Mayo for publicly criticizing the Patriots. Said you can't do that. Belichick proudly pointed out that last year's Patriots led the league in stopping the run, and now Mayo's team can't stop the run with quote-unquote the same players. Well, coach, timeout. There's no Judon. There's no Barmore. Several Patriots have been injured. Come on, coach. Really? Same players? I think not. If you're supposed to be the GOAT coach, shouldn't it be beneath your dignity to point a finger at this 38-year-old rookie coach who took your place? That just seems bitter and petty to me. But that's the real Belichick, the guy I do not want coaching my Cowboys. So in New England, Belichick for years got away with being an old-school tyrant because he had Brady as his supporter and his locker room buffer. Brady was the one who could convince near mutinous players to just relax and accept and tolerate Belichick because they were going to win football games. Now, obviously, no more Brady, who, by the way, helped Belichick win the first 6 Super Bowls with game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or overtime. Product of. I will be very surprised if new Raiders owner Brady pushes to hire Belichick to replace Antonio Pierce. I will be very surprised, even though there was that random report about that last week. Very surprised. Obviously, I campaigned for Jerry to fire McCarthy and hire Jim Harbaugh after that Green Bay playoff embarrassment. But now, I guess if you force me to pick somebody, I wouldn't mind Mike Vrabel because he does have that commanding presence of a bona fide head football coach whose players fear and respect. But the reason Vrabel is no longer Titans coach was that he's very much his own man. Love that about him, but that's why he's no longer the coach. He wouldn't play nice, wouldn't collaborate, as they said, with Titans football executives or with Titans ownership. Vrabel would last about 10 minutes with Jerry Jones. In minute 11, he'd tell Jerry to go, you know what himself. Now for my biggest pet peeve about the NFL system. How did this entire league fall into this trap that suggests great coordinators make great head coaches? I don't get it, never got it. Coordinating has very little to do with head coaching, almost nothing to do with head coaching. Coordinating is more about X and O strategy, calling plays, calling defenses, than it is about inspiring and commanding an entire locker room of high-paid egomaniacs who become social media stars. It's a very different job to be a head coach. So here's Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator in Detroit. He majored in math and computer science at North Carolina, where he was a walk-on quarterback. At only 38 years of age, Ben Johnson reminds me very much of so many offensive coordinators I've known who were far better at coordinating than head coaching. Norv Turner is the first that pops into mind. Jimmy Johnson wasn't a great defensive coordinator, but he was a natural-born force field, culture creator, and leader of men, oftentimes because said men were flat out afraid of him. Jimmy could go psycho, and it worked. In no way does Ben Johnson remind me of Jimmy Johnson. So, I don't know, maybe it's high time for Jerry Jones to make good on the proclamation he uttered in an interview with Vanity Fair. Never forget it. 1989, his first year owning the team, he told Frank DeFord of Vanity Fair, "I could coach the shit out of this team." Okay, well, why not give it a go, Jerry? You know people would certainly watch, which is all that you really care about. And you wouldn't have to worry about getting fired because you would never fire you. This is from YouTube, from at 88SMJLS, hope I got that right, who says, Mahomes is closer to Brady than LeBron is to Jordan. Whew, this one got me right between the eyes. I agree. Astute point, 88. Now, Mahomes did get destroyed by Brady and the Bucs in the Super Bowl, and Mahomes did throw 2 interceptions down 20-10 in his first Super Bowl before he won that one. And he did throw for only 182 yards in the Super Bowl win over the Eagles. But Patrick Mahomes did play very well last year against the 49ers, and he is 3-1 in Super Bowls to Brady's 7-3. LeBron James is, as you know, but don't want to accept, he's 4-6 in the finals. Ray Allen saved one of those for him with that shot right in my heart. And another one of those 4 championships was a Mickey Mouse pandemic bubble title. And as we all know, LeBron epic failed in games 4, 5, and 6 against the Mavericks in 2011, but don't get me started on that. While Michael Jeffrey Jordan, of course, went 6-0 in the finals with 6 MVPs. LeBron is not in Jordan's universe. I at least give Mahomes at age 29 a chance of passing Brady, though that will be pretty impossible because it's so hard to duplicate Brady's winning his first 6 Super Bowls with game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or overtime. You're kidding me. Peyton Burton asks via email, if you had to pick a different profession, what would you choose? So, Peyton, when I was a little kid, going to Methodist church because my mom would take me every Sunday, I actually started to think I wanted to be a minister. I was usually the leader of my class or my group. I was pretty good at public speaking, so I thought, hey, a minister gets to lead and speak to a large group of people and to help people with their problems. Maybe. Then the more I played sports, the more I got hurt, and the more I started to think about becoming an orthopedic surgeon. I'm, to this day, constantly counseling friends on how to heal various injuries because I've had just about all of them myself. But the truth is, I'm not great at science, and the truth be told, I get queasy at the sight of blood. And the orthopedic surgeons I know, several friends of mine, they have so many little issues that go so far beyond just operating on patients. So I made the right choice. This is Jimmy Vang from St. Paul via email who asks, if you could restart your life at any age, what age would that be and why? Very intriguing question, Jimmy, but allow me to tweak it. If I had to be stuck in 1 year of my life, if I had to experience one eternal Groundhog Day, which year would that be for me? No question, my 8th grade year. So I grew fast. I was one of the biggest kids on our basketball team at Taft Junior High, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We were so good that our coach, Jay Stevens, scheduled 3 ninth grade teams that year, Jackson, Classen, and Hoover, and we did beat 2 of them at home at Taft, where it seemed like the entire student body would just pack around the floor, standing room only, no seats. We'd have kids, 15 or 20 deep on one side of the court, screaming so crazy loudly, we couldn't hear each other out on the floor. My friend Bruce Scott and I took turns leading that team in scoring, but at year's end, I was chosen Athlete of the Year at a 7th and 8th grade junior high school with a grand total of about 1,500 students. I'm pretty sure it was the biggest junior high in the state of Oklahoma, 1,500 students. So that meant a lot to me. Then that summer, at a camp for kids from all over Texas and Oklahoma, I was selected MVP over my friendly rival, Bruce Scott, who came in second. And that meant a whole lot to me because that I got to read about in the Oklahoma City paper. So I guess you could say I peaked in 8th grade. Was I ever big man on campus walking the halls of Taft Junior High School at 23rd and May Avenue in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma? I knew only that world. My world ended at the ends of those hallways. So for just a few months of my life, I got to taste what it was like to be one of the star athletes that I would eventually write about, talk endlessly about, even critique. I got to feel just for a few months a little bit of what that felt like because in my world, I was it. Better still, on my 14th birthday that year, it was December 4th, my birthday, I achieved total freedom. I've spoken before about how my parents both struggle with alcohol. I was the oldest, so my mom didn't want the responsibility of having to take me places anymore, so she convinced my dad to buy me something none of my friends' parents would have ever bought them. A motorcycle. The little ones weren't expensive. So I went down on my birthday. That morning, it was a Saturday. And I passed my driver's test with flying colors. And my dad took me straight over to the Honda shop and bought me a little red Honda 90. And I was gone. I had no rules, no curfew. There wasn't even a helmet law in Oklahoma in those days. I could go anywhere, anytime I wanted. And if all that wasn't great enough, I had my first girlfriend. I hope she doesn't mind me shouting her out. Her name, believe it or not, was Gayla Junk. I'm not making that name up. Gayla Junk. Gayla was an older woman. She was a 9th grader. I met her at one of our high school football games. Long blonde hair, great smile, great kisser. Life was good. So for Christmas that year, Gayla gave me the new Rolling Stones album. It's called December's Children. And on that album was what became one of my favorite Stones songs, As Tears Go By. I shed no tears in 8th grade. I made decent grades, but I didn't start sweating my grades until the next year at Northwest Claflin High School, when I started making straight A's time after time after time. I started to sweat my grades. So 8th grade was the last time in my life I didn't worry about anything. No pressure, no expectation, not yet. Then later that year, Gayla and her family moved to Tulsa. It's just a hour and a half up the road. We said we'd stay in touch, but you know how that goes. All good things must come to an end. In 9th grade, the basketball coach, a legendary coach at the high school, did not like me from day one. So please understand the bigger picture here. The greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life was meeting my wife, Ernestine. These last 7 years with our daughter Hazel, our Maltese, have been just spilling over with constant joy and laughter and love. But if I had to go Groundhog Day, sort of naively trapped in 1 year in my very blessed life, man, give me 8th grade at Taft Junior High School. Whew. Allow me to answer 2 questions at once to finish. From YouTube, this is NXTDOC1851. When was the last time OU was relevant? And from Terrico Cheatham, will Lincoln Riley ever get to a championship, let alone win one? Okay. As you know, I was born into my Oklahoma Sooners fandom. My grandfather took me to my first game when I was 5. But, man, I would have to say we were pretty relevant during Lincoln Riley's OU seasons. They weren't that long ago. Let's see, 2017, Baker wins the Heisman. We lost in the national semifinal 54-48 in double OT to Georgia. 2018, the next year, Kyler wins the Heisman. Pretty relevant. And we lost in the national semifinal to Alabama 45-35. 2019, the next year, Jalen Hurts finishes second in the Heisman. Pretty relevant. We lost in the national semifinal to Joe Burrow and LSU 63-28. Then skip a year, but 2021, we got to 9-0 with Caleb Williams as our new true freshman quarterback. And stinking Lincoln Riley was obviously negotiating with USC, and he soon left under the cover of darkness, and we fell completely apart. Thank you, stinking Lincoln. And I must admit, the truth is, we've never been quite the same with Brent Venables in charge. We had our moments. Dillon Gabriel as our quarterback. I was told Dillon Gabriel wanted to stay for his final collegiate season in Norman at OU, but that the decision makers wanted to go forward with Jackson Arnold, who was once upon a time the number 1 quarterback recruit dual threat in the nation. So far, so bad with Jackson Arnold. So obviously, if you give Lincoln a Heisman candidate quarterback, he could get you into the old 4-team playoffs. That's pretty great. Pretty great. 3 straight years. Maybe it could have been a fourth total if he hadn't fled under the cover of darkness. But the problem is, in losing those 3 straight semifinals, we gave up an average of 54 points a game, an average of 528 yards a game for those 3 semifinal losses. That's just awful. I kept trying to tell all my USC friends, I kept saying publicly again and again and again, I kept telling my man Keyshawn Johnson, once the biggest star at USC, stinking Lincoln is all offense and forget about defense. Just forget about it. So no, I don't ever see Lincoln Riley winning a championship as a head coach. He's Cliff Kingsbury. He's a much better offensive coordinator than a head coach, as I previously alluded to. For USC, the far better head coach, commanding officer, is teaching a class just down the street from the USC practice field. I'm talking about former USC head coach Pete Carroll. I said the day that Pete Carroll took that teaching job that he would return sooner than later to becoming USC's head coach. And now, of course, USC is 3-4, and Pete's got to be just a couple of steps away. So now Brent Venables is actually making me miss stinking Lincoln. Here we go again. Venables just might prove to be a much better defensive coordinator than a head coach. I don't know exactly why, but Venables' Oklahoma teams are all too often just not ready to play at kickoff of big games. Venables is a great, I think he's the best interview in college football, but he is a very questionable motivator. Which brings me to something I thought I would never, ever see in my lifetime. This week, The Athletic ranked the top 134 college football teams in the country. And my school, the school I graduated from, Vanderbilt University, is ranked 22nd in the country. Oklahoma is ranked 43rd. And USC ranks 52nd. Yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen, my Vanderbilt Commodores, my doormat doors who don't belong in the SEC, are ranked 21 spots higher than Oklahoma and 30 spots higher than the University of Southern California. Saturday, 3:15 Central Time in Nashville, my Commodores play Texas. My Commodores have a 23-year-old, I believe to be the greatest underdog quarterback in college football history, Diego Pavia. You better know his name if you don't already. Diego Pavia, greatest underdog quarterback in college football history. And Texas now has a quarterback quandary with the underconfident Quinn Ewers, afraid he'll get yanked at any moment in favor of Arch Manning, who did get his shot thrown into the game in the second quarter last Saturday night against Georgia. And Arch didn't exactly play like a Manning. Quarterback quandary. My doormat doors are 18.5-point underdogs to the Texas that beat the hell out of my Oklahoma. 18.5-point underdogs. I like our chances. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Tyler Korn for producing, to Ernestine for overseeing, and to Hazel for approving.